Day to my nephew Jonathan Nortey Dua. You better know who you are. You're blessed. You know who you are, and most definitely you know the dial. 99.7 FM. Some call it a frequency, I call it a family. Some call it a program, I say it's a promise. Package designed to deliver the healthiest auditory stimulation this side of the equator, indeed across the globe. 99.7 FM, we call it Ultimate Health. And for the past 2 weeks, we've been talking blood donation. The whole structure of the blood service. I have in the studio with me once again Dr. Delis Jonte, acting head of the Southern Zone Blood Collection Center, which you might know as the Kolebu Blood Bank. David Ahiajiro is in charge of blood donor recruitment. Gives him lots of grey hair, but we're still pushing ahead with that. And today I have a finance officer with the service as well, also with the Southern Zone. Miss Beata Akunsong is with us. We'll talk money matters, but today we want to look at the procedural steps. How does one request blood? Who requests the blood? Is it the family? Is it the physician? Who should be handling blood? Should we be walking around with flasks and ice chests and rubber bags with ice blocks and chasing blood? So what's the whole process? Is it working properly? Share your questions, concerns, experiences with me. WhatsApp is 055 11 11 997. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. And shortly I will activate those lines for you to get in on the action. So welcome to my guests. Ladies and gentlemen, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
And Beata, I like the name, huh? And you're in red. You're most welcome to Ultimate Health.
Thank you very much.
You handle finances for the blood service.
Yes, please.
Right, the Southern Zone.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a rich woman. Right? At least when it comes to blood money. That doesn't sound good, blood money. Oh my goodness. But let me start with Doc. We've let's call this third sermon, right? It's the third time we're having you to talk about blood. And last week, I had a deluge of callers after the program, messages, and Charlie, the people, why? You are siding with them. What they tell us when we donate or become voluntary donors is totally different from what you guys are talking about. But I had a lot of explanation to do, and I'm sure we'll get to do some of that, let me call it PR, right? To make sure we can establish this as a civic responsibility that we should all be taking up on a regular basis. But let me ask, you also are head of clinical services. When we request or when someone needs blood, there are various scenarios and clinical reasons or indications why a person must receive blood or blood products. One of them, of course, is, in fact, most of those things involve transfusion. Just explain for my listeners, when we say transfusion, what exactly are we doing?
Thank you very much, Nortey. Before I answer your question, I want to make a little bit of clarification.
Great. That's what the program is for.
The blood center is different from the Kolebu Blood Bank.
Okay.
They are not the same.
They're not the same.
The Kolebu Blood Bank handles patients, and the blood center deals with hospitals. Okay. So the blood center will issue bulk units to the hospitals.
Okay.
And the hospital's blood bank will issue individual units to patients.
Okay.
So there are two different groups. It's just that sometimes you have a blood center supporting a hospital to perform their hospital blood bank activity.
Okay.
Very well.
So Kolebu has its own blood bank.
There's a Kolebu blood bank.
Right. Which works under your jurisdiction. Oh?
So the Kolebu blood bank, it's supposed to be managed by the hospital management.
Okay.
But after the blood center moved out of Kolebu, The blood center has for some time now been supporting Kolebu with staff.
Okay.
So we second our staffs there.
Okay.
And they run the hospital blood bank on behalf of the hospital.
Okay. It's getting read, but not as clear as I thought. So essentially, Kolebu Blood Bank is what? Autonomous from the blood service or not?
So every hospital is supposed to have a blood bank.
Okay.
Managed by the hospital.
Okay.
The blood center is not in charge of hospital blood banks.
Okay.
Okay. But for a certain special reason in the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, we tend to have our staff going there because we provide the resources that are used in working on the patient samples.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But I'm sure after...
So Kolebu Blood Bank can and does work on patient blood samples?
Yes, Nortey.
Kolebu Blood Bank can and does collect blood?
No.
No. Aha. Right. That's the catch. So they can't collect blood.
No.
All right. So when you do your drives, your campaigns, your mobilization for collection and all that, when you collect fees, the fees come to you, the blood service. Or?
So when we do the drive and we collect the blood units, we screen them and issue it in bulk to the hospital. So the hospital pays the blood service or the blood center.
For blood.
For the blood.
Okay. And when an end user pays a processing fee or whatever, they are paying to the hospital.
To the hospital.
And not to the blood service.
Not to the blood service.
Okay. Wow, listeners, hey, it's Ultimate Health on Joy 99.7 FM. We sought to bring you clarity. So that's exactly what we're doing. And that's exactly what we're trying to deliver on. You just heard Dr. Delis John Tay. She's with the the Ghana Blood Service, right? She's the acting head of the Southern Zone, right? Okay, Southern Zone Blood Center. Okay, Center, right? And then I kind of lumped them together and said, but there's also a Kolebu Blood Bank, right? And she's made the clarification. We'll get the distinction better as we go along. In the studio alongside her, of course, is David Ahiajiro. He's lead when it comes to donor recruitment, and I'm sure he doesn't just recruit, he's got to keep them on board. Something, a dilemma we've been battling with over the past 2 weeks. We're trying to get to understand that. And then I have a finance officer with the Southern Zone Blood Center. Is it Miss or Mrs?
It's Miss.
Miss. Okay, she's Miss, she's Miss, right? And she has money. Beata Akunsong, she's in charge of the financial details, right? So when we say somebody is being transfused, what exactly is happening?
So when we say somebody is being transfused, it means that you have a patient who needs one of the blood components we had discussed earlier,
right?
And a doctor has made a request, and the product or the component has been set up and is running into the veins of the patient. Okay. So you are being transfused with the blood component. Okay.
So we're introducing blood or blood components into your circulatory system, right? Externally.
Externally.
Right. Yes. Normally or ordinarily, your body produces its own blood and should have, should I say, adequate levels of blood to do whatever blood does, right? In certain clinical circumstances, this is compromised and you may need
to be given from somebody else.
Yes. Okay. All right. Understood. If you don't understand, WhatsApp is 055 11 11 997, and we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Ultimate Health on Joy 99.7 FM. We're seeking to understand the procedures and the steps, right, by which these products can be requested by the appropriately qualified persons, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, you do get the end user receiving the blood or blood product. That's what we're looking at today. And I said that last week. I got a lot of calls. My good old friend Reverend Tete Jangma also called me, shared his experience. A long time donor, but he had his misgivings, like most of our other callers who shared, and those who also sent WhatsApp about, well, this whole expectation that, well, you should get some preferential treatment, even if it is not your own blood, right? There should be some professional treatment when it comes to you needing or a relative needing to access blood or blood products, okay? I'm sure it will come up. But what I also wanted to ask, so how do you switch on this whole system, right? Where there's supposed to, or we assume there's a bank, right? A repository or storage, a reservoir of blood. How do you kick this process into action? Who requests or who should request? Properly put.
Okay, thank you very much. So when a patient visits a hospital, a doctor would usually see, and then make the determination that you have a certain condition.
Okay.
And this condition may require blood transfusion.
Okay.
He may also request some labs which will support the clinical finding.
Okay.
So he has made that decision.
Right.
And he has to.
He or she.
Sorry.
Right, don't worry.
He or she has to make the request.
Right.
Okay, so you make the request, the doctor makes the request, and he specifies what exactly the patient needs, because we have learned earlier that there are different components. So if he needs to help a patient raise the HB or the hemoglobin concentration, then he requests the red cell component. If he needs something to support the patient for clotting, then he will either request a fresh frozen plasma, like we discussed the other time, or cryoprecipitates.
Okay.
And if you have problem with platelets, then he requests the platelets.
Okay.
So the requests are specific.
Right. Okay. So a clinician, a doctor makes the request. Should there ever be a scenario where somebody other than a qualified doctor makes the request for blood or blood products? Can I not walk to the service and say, hey, Dillis, Charlie, give me a couple of liters of X or Y product? Can anybody other than a doctor make the request for blood or blood products?
All right, so for our situation in Ghana, it is only the clinician or the doctor, a qualified doctor, who is allowed to make the request.
Okay. Nobody else?
Nobody else.
There's no other means and no other personnel recognized by our system that can access blood. I'm looking at this in the sense that we have a bank, right? And there are inflows and outflows from this bank. And this bank is challenged. We've always said that our blood bank is anemic. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that access to the blood that we struggle to mobilize and put there, process and put there, is through the specified designated legal channels. So nobody other than a clinician who has actually seen the patient and assessed the clinical need for this priceless resource can make this request.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
It's important because, like you described, it's a scarce resource.
Scarce resource.
So if you don't know what you are doing, you just waste it.
Okay.
So our policies do not
just waste it, but put people's
patients
lives
at risk.
At risk.
You get it?
Right?
So
And put
our
the
policy
store and
does
the
not-
bank at risk.
Yes.
Right.
It doesn't allow any other person to make the request.
Okay. All right. So it's not the case that a nurse can request, a pharmacist, somebody who works in the lab has some 2 buckets somewhere. I'm speaking practically.
It's practical.
Right. It should not be.
It shouldn't.
Can I go as far as saying it should be illegal for somebody other than a qualified clinician to make this request?
Yes, you are right. It is illegal for you to make a request. Blood is a drug.
Right.
So you realize that there are some antibiotics that certain persons are not allowed to request.
Right. Okay.
When you request it and you get to the pharmacy, the pharmacist will not serve it.
Okay. So access to the product and the request process, right, is restricted.
It's restricted.
I want Ghanaians to understand that. If you just joined us, it's 20 minutes past the hour of 2 on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Nortey by nature. The program is Ultimate Health, your ultimate guide to healthy living. And we're talking about blood. We've talked about donations, and there's been a lot of wahala there. The wahala has not necessarily increased the levels in the blood bank, but I believe we're progressing towards that. Today, we're looking at the procedural steps. What happens before blood is requested and indeed finally and subsequently released by the designated service, right? That's what I'm looking at. And if you have any other experience, or you've been getting blood from some corner in Kolegono or somewhere else, or some church, or we have connections with the blood service, and so we have it in a freezer in the pastor's office. Let's talk about that, okay? That's WhatsApp 055 1111 997. Okay, having established that, we know what a prescription looks like when it comes to medicines, all right? Is there a designated form for this? And once same has been filled out, will it be issued to a relative or a nurse? Who gets this request once we assume it has been properly filled out by a qualified doctor?
Thank you very much. So there is a specialized document,
Okay.
a blood transfusion request form,
Okay.
which the doctors use to make the request for each patient.
Okay.
And it has columns for you to fill, specifying what you need,
Okay.
what the patient's the clinical
Condition, right.
and then the patient's name and other identifiers.
Okay.
Okay. The request form is supposed to get to the blood bank. The ideal situation in every hospital is for a health worker to transport this to the blood bank.
Transport
Together,
the request
form together with patient sample.
All right.
Okay.
Hang on a sec. So this form is duly filled out by the qualified professional specified under law, and then you're saying a nurse, or is that what you said?
A trained health
A
worker.
trained health worker is to move this document along with a sample of blood
from the patient.
From the patient. Why?
We said that blood has been donated by another person.
Okay.
You need to know the person's group, which the blood center has done.
Okay.
But the patient who requires the blood also has his blood type or the blood group.
Great.
And so for the hospital blood bank to select a blood unit that would match the patient's group,
Right.
he needs to know the patient's group.
Okay.
Okay. And then after knowing the patient's group, you go ahead to mix up the patient's sample and the donor's sample to see if they agree. That is what they
cross-match.
call cross-match.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So if all that are okay, the blood is labeled as for the patient.
Okay. Right. Great stuff. 23 minutes past the hour of 2 on Joy 99.7. I'm enjoying this because the clarity is, should I say, progressing, and we're moving forward. If you are not and you're stuck somewhere, WhatsApp is 055 1111 997, right? We've gone a little beyond donors, but I have the donor boss here, and I have the lady who handles some of the payments or the charges or whatever, who can speak to that. I'll get to that in a second. But Dr. Dillis John Tay, let me ask you this. So let's say I'm lying in hospital or a medical facility or health facility, and I insist, I affirm that my blood group is, let's say, Kominini, whatever, right? Despite that assertion, or despite any document I may provide to the care provider indicating that this is my blood group, this sample is still needed and still required, and cross-matching will still be required. Oh?
Yes, because you mentioned earlier that the blood transfusion process can sometimes pose a risk to the patient.
Right.
So standards are put in place as much as possible to eliminate errors.
Okay.
The patient may know the blood group.
Okay.
If it is an emergency situation and the patient knows the blood group, you could start with a unit of blood with that blood group.
Okay.
But then you're watching out because things can go wrong.
Right.
The hospital blood bank needs to make sure that the group the patient says he is what they obtain when they do the test.
Okay.
Because sometimes you remember when we had our program, somebody said he did his blood group, and one said A, B, another said A, and another said B.
Okay.
Yes, so it is the sample in the tube
right taken from the patient
that the hospital blood bank is dealing with.
Okay. All right. Folks, I hope this is sounding should I say straightforward and it's understandable to you. If it's not, that's why they're in the studio this afternoon on a Sunday afternoon to answer your questions. You can send them by WhatsApp 055 11 11 997. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll soon activate the phone line so you can ask the questions yourself, right? We're looking at the procedural steps, right, in requesting and receiving, I should have added in my topic, safe blood. Right, in Ghana, we will make that assumption that all the blood that is dispensed, so to speak, is safe, right? But if we compromise this process at any point, then safety is compromised, and we may not be in the business of saving lives. Okay, right. I've got this on my screen. I've got several mice on my desk. Okay, click the right one. This one says, how do they deal with people who, for religious reasons, shun the process? So, refusal of transfusion, right? We're assuming we've got the blood and we've gone forward to start looking at the process. And somebody's brought in a speed ramp or a roadblock where the patient or their relatives refuse. Doc, is this something that requires consent? I need it. And a clinical decision has been made, properly so, that I need it. Is it against my rights if this is done without my informed consent or that of my relatives? Can somebody actually decide that they don't want this on religious grounds or other grounds?
Yes, so we all have rights, and any patient has a right to refuse blood transfusion.
Okay.
So after the doctor sees the patient, at least you are informed that this is the challenge you have, and you will need blood transfusion.
Okay.
If you agree to it, the doctor will go ahead. If you don't, he wouldn't. But for documentation purposes, yes, there is a consent to be filled.
Right.
So you agree to the transfusion, and then you sign. If you don't agree, there's a portion to it.
Okay.
You think, and then you sign.
You sign that you disagree.
You disagree with the transfusion. Nobody will send your sample to the blood bank.
And you cannot be forcefully, right? If you sign that and you are in sound mind, and you are competent to give that consent, and you withdraw or withhold consent, then that's the end of the matter.
That's the end of the matter.
All right. Okie dokie. This is why I love doing this. This is from Oye in Afienya. She says, welcome to my home. Your home must be full by now, Oye, but I gladly and humbly receive that. This one says, Abochi Philip from Keta, I really love the discussion. It is good to donate blood to the banks, but some staff at the hospital have been selling the blood to some people, and some people sell blood for rituals. Why is it so? We keep on hearing this, and we haven't been able to validate that. Is it a perception? Right? My suggestion goes to the doctors. They must sack those people who call themselves agents. Right, is there galamsey blood or goro persons or people within the system? I said Dr. Anyajuru. David, you mobilize and recruit donors, but I'm sure you hear some of these speculations and accusations. Are there people who may have infiltrated the system, or actually maybe your own staff who compromise the system?
Well, thank you very much. So, to the best of my knowledge, we've not been able to actually apprehend our own staff engaged in that. But like you said, yes, we've been hearing, and that there have been some people around who've been moving around the blood centers.
Middlemen.
I don't want to call them middlemen or women, because we don't recognize them as such, and we don't even see them as such. Because for us, when we get wind of maybe an activity like that going on, quickly we try to move in, get the police to actually make some arrests.
Okay.
But the thing is sad that once maybe an arrest has been made, and you find out that you don't have an insider
right
there, then and probably those who are trying to engage in that probably might have even gotten the blood from a different facility of a sort. Then you realize that as it goes, there's this lack of evidence to actually move on to prosecute.
We're yet to lay our fingers.
So the best thing is for us to actually educate and understand, and actually let the general populace know that should somebody need blood, or should a doctor, like Dr. Adili said, request for that blood and directs you to a blood center or a hospital blood bank for the blood, you have to actually deal with qualified blood center staff.
How would you know that?
Definitely, you have to go to the blood bank.
May I play around and ask if they wear red?
No,
hang on. How will legitimate, qualified blood center or blood service staff be identified?
Yes, so we have the hospital blood banks, and the blood bank, we have staffs within the blood bank. And then, like he said, most of the time the request even goes ahead of the before the relatives are actually informed that they have to go to the blood bank and actually ascertain and make the necessary payments for the blood to be released for the patient. So once the relatives actually go to the blood bank, at least they have to walk into an office. Don't deal with people outside the office. Don't see people within the periphery and start dealing with them. When people even interrogate you, oh, what are you doing here, whatever, at least you say, I'm going to the blood bank. But once a person wants to engage you, know that you are going to actually fall in the hands of fraudsters.
Let me interrogate you. So, because there's a distinction now, are the Kolebu Blood Bank, and I'm intentionally asking it as a blind person, and the blood center located in the same premise?
No.
The Southern Zone Blood Center and the Kolebu Blood Bank, are they located in the same physical premises?
No. You see, when you get to Kolebu Teaching Hospital, the hospital itself has the hospital blood bank.
Okay.
Then you move out of the hospital towards Mamprobi.
Near the bank.
Near the Ghana Commercial Bank.
Yeah.
Then you meet the blood center.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so you may call the location Kolebu, but one is within the hospital, and one has its office outside the hospital.
All right, folks, if you you may know that the Plaza Cinema used to be there opposite the park there.
So the popular name for the place is Indafa
Park. Yeah. Right. Okay, so that's the physical location of the Southern Zone Blood Center
and the headquarters of the National Blood Center.
And that's the headquarters. Okay. Now, speaking and coming back to the requisition form duly filled out, right? Where does that go?
It's in the hospital.
That's hospital based.
So it should go to the hospital blood bank.
So nobody ideally should be coming to your location looking for blood.
No individual should be coming.
Right.
Occasionally, the hospital may have blood stock but lacks a certain unit they need. So they may rush there with the request because it's urgent.
Who's they?
The hospital.
The hospital
so you have a hospital staff.
Right. Not your regular relative.
It shouldn't be an individual.
No individual, no relative.
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this, right, is because David just said that you will walk into an office, right? Don't just go anywhere. You will walk into an office. It may wrongly convey to our listeners that you will handle that form and you will go either to the center or So who is doing that job? Who is supposed to? Who is recognized as competent to do that job of handling and transmitting this request form to the appropriate designated site to receive blood or to request blood?
Okay. So I mentioned earlier that ideally a health worker, a trained health worker, is supposed to handle the request and the sample to the hospital blood bank.
Right. Okay.
Now, there are challenges with hospitals that, when you are doing cash and carry, you need a patient's relative to make some payments before some of these processes go through. But when you have a hospital that bills the patient, then you don't need a relative at that point.
Okay.
So the hospitals that are billing patients for services provided, like issuing of blood units to the patient, the health worker sends the sample there. It's worked on. A health worker picks it up to the ward, and then the patient receives the transfusion.
Okay.
But because there are many hospitals that you need the physical presence of a relative to make payment. You see a lot of relatives moving up and down, either the labs, the blood bank,
to make
the
payments.
pharmacy, to make payments.
Not to request the blood. Not to handle the blood, not to transport the blood.
No.
So where does this business of ice chests and flask and rubber bags and all this and the panic, you go to Rage, they say go to Accra and all that essentially and typically is done by relatives. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You are right.
Okay, so why does that happen when Dr. Dillis John Taste tells us ideally?
Thank you.
So are we in dreamland when we expect and assume the ideal? Or are there real, valid, genuine reasons why a relative who's already distressed should be the one handling this form? I'll come to payments a bit in a bit. My darling, I'm coming. I'll descend on you very soon and I will lay hands. But are there any valid, legitimate reason? Because we spend so much time and effort and years building the blood architecture, if I can say so, right? Which should guide the system. Is there any reason why the ideal cannot or does not operate?
So when it comes to the or within the hospital transportation of blood, usually there is no challenge.
Okay.
Health workers transport the blood from the hospital.
Any
blood
health
bank.
worker?
Sorry, trained health worker. So if you are not trained, you may be a nurse, but if you are not trained
to handle blood,
it's not advisable you handle it, because there are checks that are done when the blood is issued to you.
Okay.
And you should know them before you receive the blood from the hospital blood bank staff.
Right.
Okay. So I remember when we were growing up, the house officers were transporting the blood from the hospital blood bank to the wards. Now some hospitals have employed and trained assistants who help with this transportation of blood.
All right.
But the challenge comes in when blood has to move from one hospital to the other. Remember we said that the hospitals often do not have a way of communicating with themselves to know if you have this blood group or not. So it becomes the responsibility of the patient's relative in one hospital to be moving from one hospital to the other to check.
That is what I don't want to accept. How does it become the responsibility of the untrained relative to move and negotiate and whatever with hospitals and facilities when the trained person is not able to do that?
Thank you.
So are we not shooting ourselves in the foot and compromising the very safety we're talking about?
We are, and these are real issues.
Should that also not be illegal?
It's against our policy.
Right.
Okay. So
a nice way of saying illegal. Right?
It's against our policy. So if any hospital has not been able to put in measures to help their patients receive or obtain blood from other facilities, then it becomes illegal on their part.
Okay.
So
why hang on. 39 minutes past your hour. Why can't hospitals communicate with each other on such a critical, crucial issue? After all the sweat and, in quotes, blood to collect and mobilize this thing, which has a shelf life of 35 days, right? Depending on the product. Why can hospitals in 2022 Ghana not communicate with themselves?
Unfortunately, I don't want to hold brief for the hospitals.
You have to. You're an acting head.
Of the blood center.
Yes, so you should know.
Okay, and we have this working relationship with the hospitals by supplying them the blood.
Okay.
So they also have that responsibility of employing people who will do these movements on behalf of patients.
All right. So I'm still not happy. But
yes.
So does that mean that we don't have the staff who are trained to do this? What is it? What exactly is that bottleneck that is not allowing blood to flow between hospitals, if it exists?
So like you say, we are not happy. Also partly due to the fact that we also don't have.
May the ghosts of anybody who has lost their life because of this inadequacy haunt all of us.
Yes, and it also boils down to the non-availability of enough blood for us to supply to the facility. Ideally, if there were to be enough blood.
No. I will not accept that. I will not. Let me tell you why I will not accept that. We are talking about a situation where the request has been duly filled out.
Yes.
Let's even leave out the availability. The movement of the request is being put in the hands of unqualified people. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Why should it be so? Let's say it is my elderly mother who accompanied me to hospital. Are you suggesting that in present day Ghana, this woman will be given this form and say, well, go and try 37?
No.
Go and try rage. Go and try.
It shouldn't be the
It
case.
should not be the
shouldn't.
case. And it should not be allowed
shouldn't.
to continue. That's the point I'm making. Listeners, if you just joined us, this is Ultimate Health on Joy 99.7 FM. We're not bleeding, but we're talking about blood, right? Serious matter. I know vex, but I'm on the way. So I'm talking with the representatives of the blood service here in Accra, right? You just heard speaking and responding to my questions to the best of her ability and capacity. Dr. Dillis Jonte, who is on her third sermon here, alongside David Ahiajuru, who is in charge of blood donor recruitment, and I have Miss Beata Akunsong, who handles money. I'll switch over to her after I read a couple of your messages and also activate the phone line 030-2216-541. Those are the healthy buttons to push to get some blood education. All right, blood education. All right, not blood. Yes. I don't have blood, but I'm trying to make it available and accessible. 030-2216-541. Our WhatsApp is 055-11-11-997. Wherever you are, you can get in touch with us. This one says, Mr. Alfred Nortey, my full name again. Please, any update on my donation card? Why can't I give out blood at the hospital blood bank where it's needed most? Because at the hospital now, before you have to process documents, lives can be lost before the blood arrives. This is Douglas from DC, who asked about updating his form. Has he been in touch? Do you know?
No, he's not been in touch. But I remember the other guy was in touch.
All right, somebody called
Seto.
Seto has been sorted out.
Yes, Seto was at the office.
All right,
so,
okay. So it's a matter of who you know.
No, you have to come.
Or it's a matter of whether you listen to Joy 99.7 FM. But it's Douglas, go descend on David and Co at Kolebu. So for that, does he go to the hospital or to
you have to come to our center, our office.
All right.
Yes. So you come to the center, but we also move into the hospitals. Our staff move into the hospital blood banks.
Okay.
To collect the blood. So when you come there,
right,
you can donate blood.
Okay.
When we are there.
Right. Philip in Keta, Philip Abochi or Abochi Phillips also says a happy birthday to Mrs. Deku Fatima Kafui at Keta. Right. I skipped that. Right. Happy birthday, ma'am. A call was placed to some guys and they came to donate. This is somebody who's saying, how do they deal with, okay, we talked about the religious one, and also I hear of blood donor contractors. How true is that? Because I've seen it happen before where a call was placed to some guys and they came to donate. All right. Are there contractors? Professional, I think we have professional mourners at waykeeping and things. They use rub and other things and their eyes become red and they wail, right? Contractors, blood donor contractors. My experience 4 years ago with a hospital, Trust Hospital Osu, we were told our brother on admission needed blood. We were given a slip with 4 blank spaces and asked to go and find 4 donors. Kolebu would give them a receipt which we would bring to them before we got the blood. So someone organized donors at 200 Ghana cedis a donor. That's 800 Ghana cedis. We paid, and 2 days later we got the receipts, presented them at the Trust Hospital before we were transfused. Was this right? Or should we have gone direct to the blood bank with the slip Trust Hospital gave us? This is from Na in Osu.
Yeah. So I think when Trust Hospital gave them the receipt, it went with a specific instruction.
Okay.
That they should get their relatives,
so
family members,
this is replacement
donors. Yes, to go and replace the blood. Or we have replacement and pre-deposit.
Okay.
In some other instances, the procedure is about to be taking place, and they've envisaged that blood will be needed. So they will ask you to donate, deposit the blood. So probably in their case, that's the case.
Right.
But what normally happens is that, and sadly for us also, the relatives of the patients actually engage people outside, people that they don't know.
Okay.
And when they bring them to our place, and they at times even vouch for them that yes, they are friends, they are church members, they are family members.
Right.
And then we don't have that technology to determine whether DNA match is the person really a family member.
Plus, you're starved of blood.
So definitely the person will tweet us, and then they end up donating. Meanwhile, transactions are actually taking place.
All
like
right.
what is
they won't tell you that
they will not tell you that this is what has actually
okay.
happened.
All right, great.
Yeah.
We've addressed that. Human nature. Ghanaian version. Miss Baita. No, Beata.
Yes.
Right. You handle the finances. Last week we quickly went into why we pay. And Dr. Delis John Tay told us that we're actually paying for all the processes, the cross-matching, the co-mininis, processing, storage, and all that. Is that the case?
Yes, please.
I was hoping you disagree with me. We are paying for the processing.
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a fixed charge across the country, or it depends on the color of the blood, the thickness, and whether it is 1 sachet or 3 sachets?
It depends on the facility.
All right. So depending on which hospital or
So
facility you are at, the prices for
May
processing may change.
Yes, please.
May vary. Why is that the case?
Can I come in there?
Yes.
So you realize that the blood center processed the blood at a certain cost and gave it out to the hospitals.
Okay.
The hospitals are performing certain laboratory tests, and the laboratory tests they are performing
On the same blood?
on the patient sample.
On the patient
Okay.
sample.
So let me come back.
Okay.
The payments patient makes
Mhm.
is the processing fee
Mm-hmm.
plus the work the hospital blood bank does on the patient sample.
Right. So
Okay.
processing of the patient's sample.
Okay, you can tell me that way.
Yeah, processing fee is too ambiguous. Let's get specific. So when the patient pays, they are paying for what processing specifically?
So when the patient pays, he's paying for one, the testing that was done at the blood center on the blood unit.
Mm-hmm.
Then two,
Mm-hmm.
the testing that will be done in the hospital blood bank on the patient's sample.
All right.
So we have two. We have the donors unit, which has been worked on already at the
Alright.
blood center.
Okay.
And now the hospital is going to work on the patient sample.
And none of this is fixed.
Because laboratory tests for various hospitals, the cost differs.
Alright.
The variation may not be much.
Okay.
Okay. So that is where the differences come in.
All right.
But the processing fee from the blood center often remains constant.
Okay.
The changes that comes about are because maybe one hospital is charging for patient grouping at a certain cost,
All right.
and the other hospital
Is it that
is
they're
charging.
putting a markup on it to generate income? Why
They need to
this-
recover. They need to recover a certain cost of.
Can they not recover at a fixed margin? That's all I'm asking.
Yes, it should be possible, but
Right.
then it means the hospitals must have a body that says to agree on.
They are not regulated on this at all.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Back to my madam. So it is not fixed.
Yes.
Right.
Fixed.
Is it itemized? Will
Yes.
you will see the different components
Yes, please.
that make up the processing fee.
Yes, please.
Right. Is it all given the same name or nomenclature, processing fee, or is it broken down into different fees?
You know, we have, like, with the components, we have whole blood. So whole blood, and you pay for grouping and cross matching. So the rate for grouping and cross matching too is there, and
Okay.
there's giving set.
Right.
So it's
The
itemized.
giving set is, I know what it is, but I want you to break it
The
down.
giving set
Mhm.
is the tube that is connected to the blood unit,
Yeah.
and then the other end is connected to the patient's vein and allows the
Pipe,
blood.
no.
Pipe, yes.
Pipe, no. All
Allows
right.
the blood to flow from the
Okay, so all
back
that
to the patient. That's the
apparatus
giving
or the
set.
equipment that is used that's the giving set. You pay for that.
pay for it.
All right. Does it have a given cost? That could also vary.
No, it has a
Okay.
It shouldn't vary.
It shouldn't vary. So it's
vary.
there. All right. I want my listeners to understand, okay? Because we get to do this once a week, They have the whole week to chew on it and descend on me whilst you people have gone. All right. So that's also part of the build-up of the processing fee, right? What else is there? E-levy? What else will I see there? Or should I see there?
You know, we have.
I don't know. You tell me.
it depends on what the doctor requests. That
Right.
if it's FFPs, we have a price for
Fresh, frozen, fresh plasma.
Yes.
Okay.
And if it's platelets, we have the price. For it. So we have a list of all our products, and then all the prices are attached to it.
Okay, right. And then you get a bill for that.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So you get a bill depending on the units the doctor wants.
Right. That was the next question I was going to ask the lady in red. That am I being billed per unit, or am I being charged all this lump sum? If it is 10 units of blood, right? Are they doing the charges for processing on each unit? How is it done?
There's grouping and cost matching.
Okay.
Yes.
That one is
once.
It's once for all the 10 units, but you have to pay for each unit.
Okay.
There is a price for each unit. So if you are taking 5, we multiply the unit
by 5.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And this is paid before the blood is released.
Yes, please.
You can't do postpaid, prepaid.
In the past, we were doing postpaid.
Right.
Because of the emergency nature of it, it
Right.
goes to the facility. But recouping the amount becomes very, very difficult.
So you
and
must
challenging.
release
And
the
then-
money before you get the blood.
Yes, that is under code conditions. But under emergency situations, at times the blood goes before
Okay.
even the relatives come. And
Right.
do
My
the
phone lines are active. This is on your behalf, so do ask the questions either by WhatsApp or direct phone calls. 0302216541. Those are the healthy buttons to push. We've got about 8 minutes left. Yeah, I can't squeeze any more blood out of the time, right? But we're talking serious issues, and I know you are engaged and listening to us. How much have you paid? Did you get the appropriate requisite receipts, right? What should be on the receipts? Is it the hospital's name, or what should be on it?
We have a bank pay point that you can make the payment. So
Okay.
we have Kolebu Teaching Hospital on the
Right.
receipt, and then we have
So
The patient's name
yeah.
is on the receipt. And
Right,
then
just a second. So you move to these payment points we have in the hospitals now, or will you
so
make
let
the
me come
payment?
in.
Yeah, yes, doc. Can I
So-
just quickly take a call and
Yes,
bring you in?
okay.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Right, who am I speaking to?
I'm Ernest
Ernest, where are you calling from?
Ofanko.
Ofanko, you're too cool for my liking. This program is very hot. Share with us quickly so we can accommodate your question.
I want to know if you are a voluntary blood donor. I've donated blood a couple of times, right? About 4 or so times. And in future, if I also need blood, would I have to pay for all that, what they are talking about? And then if someone is sick and they have to go and get somebody from maybe their church or somewhere to donate blood for him or her, do they have to still pay for the blood?
Okay.
That's my question.
So he's asking the same things, right? If I'm a registered donor, or if I go and bring people from my church to donate, will I be exempt from these payments? Ma'am, hold on a second. Let me take another caller. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right, who am I speaking to?
Hello.
Ebo?
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you calling from, Ebo?
Spenders.
Spintex. Share with us quickly.
You know what? Blood can never be bought. Blood can never be bought. So if we are giving it free, I don't think they should be. Is it one of the things that discourage people from giving blood? Is me? I'm a blood donor. I have donated blood, but you see, sometimes people will say, "Yeah, it's true." The certificate is even missing. But when I go, now that they will tell us to go and write letter, this, no. You see, I'm truthful. I have donated blood, but you see, the blood can never be bought. And now they will tell us, I don't think, okay, ask them one question for me. Let them answer this question. In US and other developed nations, do they do that? I think they do something to make people go to the hospital themselves.
Ebo, are you answering your own question? I get I get your point, but what you're saying is that blood should not be sold.
Yes, it
All
shouldn't be sold. Now they will tell you,
Okay.
it went through process. So when somebody is coming for it, I give it for free. When someone is coming for it, the person should pay for it. No.
Okay.
I give it in the idea behind
what you gave for free. Hang on,
Abel,
hang on. What you gave for free needs to be worked on. Okay, right? It's the same way somebody converts air, wind, water, oil into electricity, and we pay for it. But I do get your point, and I do understand your frustration. Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Hello, good afternoon.
Right, who am I speaking to?
Jacob Eshen Jr.
Jacob Eshen Jr. All right.
Yes.
Share with us your junior points.
Great. I have a problem with the disposal of the expired drug. First, they should tell us whether the blood expires specific date and how is it disposed. That is not falling. It's not going to fall into wrong hands.
Okay.
As the speculations are.
Right. Is this Jacob in Winneba, right?
Jacob, yes, correct.
Right. But
Modernization Africa.
yes, I know who you are. But you raise a problem with disposal, then you ask them how they dispose. Right. So I'm wondering where your problem is hinged or how it is informed, right? He's asking, how do you dispose of blood that expires? We've talked about the 35 days shelf life, but he's worried that it could get into the wrong hands.
Yes, so blood units that need to be discarded are supposed to come to the blood center that issued it to you. Now, the blood center has a process. It first goes through a sterilization process, autoclaving.
Right.
So the blood unit is destroyed.
Okay.
Okay, so after autoclaving, then there is incineration.
Right.
Okay, so after the autoclaving, nothing can be done with the blood.
Okay.
You look at it and it will not look like the blood that you know.
Not
but
if you want to
professionals
use it for a Ghanaian movie. All right.
people are trained
Okay.
to dispose of these units
Okay.
after.
And there's
it goes through
audit
the
for all
process.
these.
There's audit.
Right.
There's
Okay. There's auditing.
controlled audits.
All right. We've only got 3 minutes, right? But I wanted to come back to the money issue. Ebo is quite vexed about this and he's saying, look, I give it for free. Yes, you process it, but should somebody also pay to receive such a critical life-saving product?
Yeah, so,
Yes, because the processing takes, like we have to buy reagents. There are lots of things that goes into processing,
Right.
and so we have to they have to pay for it for us to be able to run the place.
Okay. Right.
I also want to add that, in the developed countries, their health insurance, the national health insurance system works. So you are paying, but it's not coming directly from your
we
pocket.
haven't excited our creative grey matter to set up these systems of, let me call it social support and
Yes.
social safety nets, right? We argue about the wrong things. So this should have been fused into what we are paying, maybe NHIS or this and this and that, and then a
Then
component
it
will
covers
handle the
everybody.
processing. Is there anything close to that nature on the tables?
It's on the tables, but I can't tell how close it is. Because there are a lot of
You are
challenges.
tempting me to do
Yes.
a fourth sermon.
Challenges with the health insurance,
All right.
disbursement to hospitals.
All right.
So if it's those challenges fall on blood, then you know how standstill the blood processing would become.
Wow.
So I think
Okay.
all the others must be sorted out
Before
then we
blood.
try to bring blood in.
Blood should be first. All right, I said so.
and I think because
Right.
of that too, that's why we also have the Blood Foundation now. There's a National Blood Foundation.
It's also
That will- that will seek
I
to
guess it's
solicit
also
for
anemic.
funds. Yes.
Anemic.
It's
Very
also anemic.
Oh, it's very anemic.
So it's dead on arrival. So you do not have the blood
Just to
foundation.
give you some hope.
No. I don't want fake screensaver hope. I want the real thing. All too soon I've run out of time, but this is so critical. Something must shift.
Something must
So if I reach upwards above your heads as I have you assembled in the studio, should I be going for somebody from the Ghana Health Service to come and speak to some of these things? Because rightly put, you're under the Ghana Health Service. Oh?
No, we are not.
Ministry of Health.
Ministry of Health.
Sorry. I got my tongue twisted there. Ministry of Health. Right. I need to yank somebody alongside you guys. Sometimes when I bring them, then you guys become mute. But we need to get there. Many thanks, Dr. Dillis John Tay, acting head, Southern Zone Blood Center. David Ahiadro, head of recruitment, donor recruitment, and Miss Beata Akunsong, she is a finance officer, right, with the Southern Zone. We're not done with them yet, but we'll bring in some bigger fish into the net to answer some of these critical questions that you raise as my listeners. I've got to leave it here. I see many things, some from Dede who wants to know your genealogy and your relatives. I'll talk to you about that. Right? And a few others I couldn't read. My sincere apologies, but that's the time we have. Maybe we need to do an ultimate health bank. I'll start selling blood very soon. Right? Thank you so much. Thanks to my producer, Abeku Sankofi, and of course you, my discerning listeners. You make it happen this and every Sunday. I'm just humbled. I hand over now to her. The man, Lexus Bill, is coming in with the family quiz, sorry. And it's an interesting mix. Questions for families, and families have been revving, and they think they know it all until they get here. Sometimes I have daddies correcting daughters and leading them astray quite efficiently. But my name is Nortey by nature. I'm out of here. Stick and stay. Don't go away. This is Joy 99.7 FM.